The sky over Washington, D.C. lit up with strange lights on a cool spring evening in 2037. Dr. Alan Carter stood on the roof of NASA headquarters watching the alien ship descend. His heart pounded in his chest as he gripped the railing tightly. After decades of searching the stars, first contact was happening during his lifetime. "This changes everything," he whispered to himself. The sleek silver craft was unlike anything humans had built. It hovered silently before landing on the National Mall where military and government officials waited. Among them stood Lieutenant Samantha Wright, her back straight and her face carefully neutral despite her racing thoughts. As military liaison to this historic meeting, she had spent weeks preparing for every possible scenario. Frank Donovan, the UN Secretary General, stepped forward as a panel slid open on the spacecraft. A tall, slender figure emerged. The alien had bluish skin that seemed to shimmer in the floodlights. Two smaller aliens followed behind. "I am Ambassador Krezoth of the Valerian Confederation," the alien said in perfect English. "We come in peace and friendship." The next days passed in a whirlwind of meetings and press conferences. The Valerians claimed to have monitored Earth for decades and decided humans were finally ready for contact. They offered technological gifts and knowledge, exchange as a gesture of goodwill. Dr. Carter was assigned to work directly with the Valerian science team. At first he was thrilled, but his excitement soon turned to confusion. "This is our medical scanner," a Valerian named Zell explained, handing Alan a device that looked like a small tablet. "It is several generations old, but should be simple enough for humans to understand." Alan frowned as he examined the device. It was clearly advanced beyond Earth technology, but when he asked questions about how it worked, Zell gave vague answers. "Your species is not yet ready to understand the principles behind it," Zell said with what seemed like a smile. "Just use it as is." Similar scenes played out across all areas of technological exchange. The Valerians brought crates of equipment they called basic models or training devices, but refused to explain the science behind them. Lieutenant Wright noticed the pattern during a tour of the Valerian ship. "What powers your engines?" she asked. The Valerian guide waved dismissively. "Nothing your scientists could comprehend yet. We will provide you with some outdated power cells that will be a significant improvement over your current energy sources." When the power cells arrived at the research center, Dr. Carter discovered they were damaged and partially drained. "These are practically useless," he told Samantha when she visited his lab. "It's like they're giving us their garbage." "I've noticed something similar with the defensive systems they showed me," she replied quietly. "Everything they give us is either broken, outdated, or deliberately limited." 3 months after first contact, strange things began happening. The Valerians established compounds in resource-rich areas around the world. They claimed these were cultural exchange centers, but heavy machinery operated day and night, and no humans were allowed inside. Dr. Carter started secretly collecting and studying every piece of Valerian technology he could access. Late one night, he made a breakthrough. "Look at this," he told Samantha, pointing to a complex diagram on his computer screen. "I've analyzed the components in their communication devices. They're not just giving us outdated tech, they're giving us trash, literal discards. But even their trash is centuries beyond our technology." Samantha leaned closer. "Can you make it work properly?" "Maybe," Alan said. "But more importantly, I found something else. These devices are collecting data about our research facilities. They're spying on us while pretending to help." Frank Donovan called an emergency meeting with top officials after hearing their findings. The next day, he requested a private audience with Ambassador Krezoth. Alan and Samantha waited outside the meeting room in the UN building. When the doors finally opened, Frank walked out with a grim expression. "It didn't go well," he said simply. Inside his office, Frank revealed what happened. "I confronted Krezoth about the quality of technology they're sharing and asked about the mining operations they've established. The reaction was concerning." "What did the ambassador say?" Alan asked. "Krezoth laughed," Frank said. his voice tight with anger. Then told me we should be grateful for whatever scraps they choose to give us. When I pressed further, the ambassador dropped the friendly act completely. Frank recounted Krezoth's words. Your species is barely sapient by our standards. You are children playing with sticks who suddenly think you deserve a seat at the adults' table. We give you outdated technology because anything more advanced would be like giving explosives to toddlers. Samantha's hands clenched into fists. What do they really want from Earth? Resources, Frank replied. Minerals, biological samples, water. They view Earth as an untapped reserve, and us as primitive natives who can be easily managed. The next morning, more Valerian ships appeared. In orbit, Ambassador Krezoth made a global announcement claiming there were hostile forces in the galaxy that posed a threat to Earth. The Valerians were establishing a protective presence around the planet. Within days, Valerian ships controlled Earth's orbital space. They installed defensive platforms that everyone understood were really weapons pointed down at Earth cities. Dr. Carter worked through the night, examining every piece of alien technology he could access. There's something here, he muttered, to himself. Something they don't think we can understand. Samantha entered his lab at dawn, her face pale. The Valerians have declared protected zones around their mining operations. Any human who enters will be detained for safety reasons. They're taking over step by step. Alan looked up from his workbench where he had disassembled several alien devices. We need to understand their technology better than they think we can. This isn't just outdated equipment. It's their trash. But even their garbage is miraculous, by our standards. Can we use it somehow? Samantha asked. I'm working on it, Alan replied. They've underestimated us. They think we're too primitive to understand their cast-offs, but that may be their biggest mistake. Frank joined them later that day, bringing news that Valerian officials were now advising world governments on resource management and technology development. They're not even pretending anymore, Frank said bitterly. They see us as a resource to be harvested and managed. Alan held up a small device he had reassembled. This was meant to be a simple teaching tool for us primitives. I've modified it to scan their communication frequencies. We need to learn everything we can about them. The three looked at each other, determination replacing their earlier shock and dismay. They gave us their trash, Samantha said quietly. They never imagined we could do anything meaningful with it. That will be their downfall, Alan replied. We'll take their garbage and create something they never expected, something they won't be able to stop. Outside, a Valerian ship passed overhead, its shadow briefly darkening the lab. The occupation of Earth had begun, but so had the resistance. 1 year passed since the Valerians arrived on Earth. The alien ships now permanently hovered over major cities like floating watchtowers. Humans went about their daily lives under constant surveillance. The Valerians had established large zones, they called protected areas where no humans could enter without special permission. These zones always happened to contain the richest mineral deposits or rarest resources. Olivia Nelson wiped sweat from her forehead as she worked in the hidden laboratory. The basement of this abandoned factory had become a hub for the resistance. As an engineer who once designed satellites, Olivia now spent her days studying the alien technology that Dr. Alan Carter smuggled to her. This power cell is interesting, she muttered to herself. They told us it was nearly dead, but the energy matrix is just dormant. She carefully connected 2 wires to the alien device. A soft hum filled the room as lights flickered on. Olivia smiled. The Valerians had thrown this unit away, claiming it was defective. They never expected humans to understand how to reactivate it. Paul Martinez entered the lab carrying a heavy crate. His muscular frame showed his military background, though he no longer wore a uniform. Since the aliens took control, Paul had formed a network of resistance fighters who gathered discarded Valerian technology from their waste sites. Got something special today, he said, placing the crate on the work table. One of our people works as a cleaner in the Chicago compound. She grabbed these from their trash. Olivia opened the crate eagerly. Inside were several broken devices with unfamiliar shapes. Perfect, she said. Their garbage is our treasure. Any progress with the communication jammer? Paul asked. Almost there, Olivia replied. The Valerians think we're too primitive to understand their basic technology. That's their biggest mistake. In his downtown office, Gregory Henderson looked like any other corporate executive working with the new alien overlords. His company produced components for Valerian mining equipment. What the aliens didn't know was that Gregory secretly documented everything he learned about their technology and passed it to the Resistance. Gregory smiled politely as Ambassador Krazoth toured his factory floor. The alien barely acknowledged the human workers, treating them like furniture. Your production efficiency is adequate, Krazoth said, though still primitive by our standards. We learn slowly, but we do learn, Gregory replied carefully. The ambassador made a sound like a laugh. Some species never advance beyond certain limitations. Be grateful we guide you. After the aliens left, Gregory sent a coded message to Paul. The Valerians had ordered new equipment for processing rare earth minerals. The Resistance now knew what resources the aliens valued most. That night, Olivia made a breakthrough. She had connected several discarded alien devices together in a way the Valerians never intended. Their trash, designed for different purposes, created something new when combined with human ingenuity. It works, she whispered as the makeshift scanner revealed a complete map of Valerian energy signatures across the city. The aliens' own discarded tech was now revealing their movements and strongholds. Paul called an emergency meeting in the hidden lab. Representatives from resistance cells across the country gathered around a table made from old packing crates. Dr. Alan Carter and Lieutenant Samantha Wright had traveled in secret to join them. The Valerians are expanding their mining operations, Alan explained. They're stripping Earth of resources faster than we expected. And they're bringing more ships, Samantha added. Our sources in the government say they're establishing a permanent colony. Olivia stood up and activated her hybrid device. A holographic map appeared above the table showing Valerian activity across North America. This is incredible, Alan said, examining the display. How did you manage this? I combined their discarded entertainment system with parts from their broken medical scanners, Olivia explained. The Valerians design each piece of technology for a single purpose. They never consider combining different systems in new ways. Their arrogance makes them predictable, Paul said. They follow the same technological paths they've used for thousands of years. But humans are used to making do with whatever we have. Gregory arrived late, bringing news from his factory. They're planning something big, he reported. The Valerians are building large processing facilities in all their protected zones. They talk about accelerating resource extraction. They're stripping our planet bare, Samantha said grimly. Then we need to move faster, Paul replied. Olivia's breakthroughs are just the beginning. We need to understand their technology well enough to fight back. The group worked through the night, sharing discoveries and planning their next steps. Each resistance cell had found different ways to repurpose Valerian trash. Together, their knowledge multiplied. 2 days later, Olivia couldn't believe what she was seeing. By connecting different pieces of discarded alien tech, she had created a device that could interfere with Valerian sensors. She tested it by walking right past an alien security post without being detected. Back in the lab, she explained her discovery to the others. Their sensors operate on principles they consider basic, but they're actually quite complex. The important thing is they never expected anyone to jam them this way. Can you make more? Paul asked. Olivia nodded. With the right components, the Valerians throw away anything they consider slightly defective. To them, it's more efficient to make new things than to repair old ones. Their waste will become our weapons, Gregory said. Over the next few months, the Resistance established a hidden facility in the Appalachian Mountains. Far from Valerian outposts, they converted an old mining complex into a research center. Olivia led a team of engineers and scientists who worked day and night to understand and repurpose alien technology. Alan Carter joined them, bringing everything he had learned from his official position working with the Valerians. They still think we're just clever animals, he told Olivia. They share information carelessly around me, assuming I can't possibly understand their science. That's our advantage, Olivia replied. As long as they underestimate us, we have a chance. The breakthrough came when they discovered that Valerian waste contained materials that could be recombined at the molecular level. What looked like broken junk actually contained components that humans could use to build new devices the aliens had never imagined. Paul established training camps where resistance fighters learned to use the hybrid human-Valerian technology. The first stealth suits made from modified alien fabric allowed humans to move unseen even in heavily guarded zones. Gregory continued his dangerous double life, gaining the Valerians' trust while gathering critical information. "They're becoming complacent," he reported during a secret meeting. "They believe they've pacified us completely." Ambassador Krizoth made regular announcements praising human cooperation and promising more technological gifts in the future. Meanwhile, more Valerian ships arrived monthly, bringing equipment for permanent settlements. Frank Donovan, still serving as the human face of global governance, sent coded messages to the resistance. "The Valerians are discussing the next phase of occupation," he warned. "They plan to relocate human populations away from resource-rich areas." In the mountain laboratory, Olivia stood before her latest creation. The device looked like a jumble of alien parts combined with Earth technology, but it represented something the Valerians couldn't imagine, a completely new approach to their own science. "We're ready for the first test," she told Paul and Alan. The device hummed to life, creating an energy field that made the air shimmer. Alan checked the readings on his modified Valerian scanner. "It's working," he said with amazement. "It's actually working," Olivia smiled. "They gave us their trash thinking we couldn't possibly understand it. They never considered that we might see possibilities they missed." "How long until we can use this against them?" Paul asked. "A few more months of development and testing," Olivia replied. "But now we know it's possible." Outside the hidden facility, the world continued under Valerian rule. The aliens looked down on humans from their advanced ships, never suspecting that in secret places, their discarded technology was being transformed into something new, something that would soon become their nightmare. 6 months passed in the hidden mountain facility as the resistance grew stronger and more organized each day. The old mining tunnels now buzzed with activity as humans worked to turn alien trash into tools of liberation. Olivia Nelson rarely slept more than 4 hours a night as she pushed to understand every piece of Valerian technology they could salvage. Her workshop tables overflowed with dismantled alien devices connected in ways their creators never intended. Dr. Elijah Warren joined the resistance after the Valerians closed his physics lab at the university. At 55, his gray hair and weathered face showed the strain of the past year, but his mind remained sharp. He worked alongside Olivia, developing theories about how the alien technology functioned at its most basic level. "The most interesting thing isn't the technology itself," Elijah explained to a group of engineers. "It's how human biology interacts with it differently than Valerian biology." He pointed to a small device that glowed faintly blue. This communication node was designed for Valerian neural patterns, but when humans use it, the response creates unique energy signatures the Valerians never anticipated. Olivia nodded in agreement. They built their technology for their own species. They never imagined how it might function when used by humans. This discovery led to their biggest breakthrough yet. By combining Valerian communication devices with human neural interfaces, they created technology that worked in ways the aliens couldn't detect or understand. The first practical application was a stealth system unlike anything seen before. Nicole Baker volunteered to test the prototype. As a former test pilot, she had the reflexes and courage needed for such dangerous work. The hybrid vehicle she would pilot looked like a strange combination of earth metals and salvaged Valerian components. "Are you sure this will fly?" she asked Olivia half-jokingly as she examined the craft. "Theoretically," Olivia replied with a small smile. "The Valerians throw away flight systems with even minor defects. We've repaired and modified this one to respond to human neural patterns instead of Valerian commands." Nicole put on the neural interface helmet, which contained components from discarded alien medical devices. As soon as she focused her thoughts, the craft hummed to life. The connection felt unlike any human technology she had ever used. The ship responded to her thoughts almost before she formed them completely. "This is amazing," she whispered as the craft lifted smoothly off the ground inside the large cavern they used as a hangar. The test flight succeeded beyond their expectations. The hybrid craft achieved speeds and maneuverability that the Valerians thought impossible with that level of technology. More importantly, it operated on frequencies the aliens didn't monitor because they considered them too primitive for advanced applications. Harold Cooper arrived at the mountain facility that evening. The former CIA operative now ran a global network of resistance cells that shared information and resources. His decades of experience in covert operations proved invaluable as humans organized against their alien occupiers. "We have groups ready. In Europe, Asia, and South America," he reported to Paul and the others. "Everyone is adapting the technology in different ways based on what Valerian trash they can access." Paul spread a map across the table. "We need to coordinate our efforts. The Valerians still don't know what we're capable of. That surprise will be our greatest weapon when we strike." Harold nodded in agreement. "We have people inside their waste, management systems diverting the most useful components to our workshops. The aliens are so convinced of their superiority that they don't even notice." In his laboratory, Dr. Warren made another critical discovery. "The Valerians use a standardized energy system across all their technology," he explained to Olivia. "They consider it the only efficient approach. But human brainwave patterns can create interference patterns that disrupt their systems in ways they never protected against." This insight led to the development of the first weapons that could penetrate Valerian defenses. The aliens' shields were designed to stop their own weapons and any primitive human attacks. They never considered that humans might create hybrid technology operating on completely different principles. At the Valerian Command Center in what was once Denver, Ambassador Krizoth received troubling reports. Strange energy signatures had been detected near human population centers. Several monitoring drones had disappeared without explanation. "Probably equipment malfunctions," the ambassador said dismissively. "This planet's atmospheric conditions can interfere with our older model systems. Should we investigate further?" asked a junior officer. "Why bother?" Krizoth replied. "The humans can barely operate the simple devices we've given them. They certainly can't affect our technology in any meaningful way." This arrogance gave the resistance the time they needed. Nicole began training other pilots to use the hybrid craft. Harold expanded his intelligence network to track Valerian movements and vulnerabilities. Olivia and Elijah worked to scale up production of their most effective inventions. The aliens noticed some unusual activity but consistently underestimated its significance. When a Valerian patrol disappeared near the Appalachian Mountains, they blamed equipment failure rather than human resistance. When their sensors detected strange energy patterns, they recalibrated their equipment rather than investigating the source. "They can't imagine that we could be a threat," Paul told the resistance leaders. "They see us as primitives playing with sticks. They don't realize we're forging weapons from their own discarded technology." 3 more months passed as the resistance prepared for their first major operation. The plan was to infiltrate a Valerian command center to gather intelligence about their long-term plans for Earth. Nicole would pilot a stealth craft carrying a small team equipped with hybrid technology that could bypass alien security. The night before the mission, Olivia made final adjustments to their equipment. Each piece represented countless hours of research and experimentation. The neural interfaces were particularly important, allowing humans to control Valerian technology in ways its creators never intended. "Are we really ready for this?" Nicole asked as she checked her gear. "As ready as we'll ever be," Paul replied. "We can't wait much longer. The Valerians are establishing permanent colonies and moving more of their people to Earth every month." The mission launched just before dawn. Nicole's craft slipped through Valerian sensor nets using pathways the aliens considered too primitive to monitor. The team landed on the roof of the command center, their hybrid stealth suits making them nearly invisible to Valerian detection systems. Using tools created from salvaged alien components, they accessed the central database. The information they discovered confirmed their worst fears. The Valerians planned to relocate most of humanity to designated zones while transforming the rest of the planet to suit their own species. The team escaped with the data, avoiding detection until they were nearly back at their base. A Valerian patrol ship spotted them briefly, but lost them when Nicole activated a new countermeasure Olivia had developed. The aliens logged the incident as another sensor malfunction. When the team returned to the mountain facility, the resistance leaders gathered to analyze the stolen information. The Valerian plans were more extensive than they had imagined. Earth was just one of many planets being harvested for resources, its native species managed and controlled like livestock. "We need to move faster," Paul said after reviewing the data. "They're planning to bring in major military forces within the next year." Olivia stood up. "I think we're ready. The stealth technology works. Our weapons can penetrate their defenses. Most importantly, they still have no idea what we're capable of." Dr. Warren agreed. "Their greatest weakness is their inability to imagine us using their technology in ways they never considered. They follow predictable patterns of development. We don't." Harold outlined a bold plan. "Simultaneous strikes at key locations around the world. Small teams using our hybrid technology to hit their command centers and communication hubs. Can we really do this?" Nicole asked. "Take on their entire occupation force?" Paul looked around the room at the determined faces of the resistance leaders. "We have to try, and we have one advantage they don't understand yet. They gave us their trash thinking it was useless to us, but we've forged it into something new, something they've never seen before." Olivia nodded. "A nightmare they can't stop because they can't even comprehend it. Their arrogance will be their downfall." As dawn broke over the mountains, the resistance prepared for war. The Valerians continued their operations across the planet, never suspecting that humans had transformed discarded alien technology into weapons that could challenge their control of Earth. The uprising was about to begin. Dawn broke over what was once Chicago as Maria Duncan checked her equipment one final time. At 38, she had spent most of her adult life in the military before the Valerians arrived. Now she commanded the first major offensive against the alien occupiers. Her face showed no emotion as she studied the holographic map of the Valerian command center. "All teams report ready," her second-in-command said quietly. Maria nodded. "Then we move in 30 minutes. Remind everyone to stick to the plan. We hit fast, we hit hard, and we disappear before they understand what happened." Across the world, similar scenes played out as resistance groups prepared to strike Valerian targets simultaneously. After 18 months of occupation, humanity was fighting back. Inside the Chicago Command Center, the Valerians went about their daily routine. They monitored human activity with casual disinterest, confident in their technological superiority. Ambassador Krizoth had recently been replaced by military commander Vexnar, a stern Valerian with a reputation for ruthless efficiency. "The human workers are showing decreased productivity in Sector 7, a junior officer reported. Commander Vexnar made a dismissive gesture. "Adjust their environmental conditions. They respond well to small rewards and punishments, like all primitive species." Neither the commander nor his staff noticed the small distortions in their sensor readings. The resistance fighters approached using stealth technology derived from discarded Valerian entertainment devices. Olivia had discovered that the aliens' recreational holograms operated on frequencies their military sensors ignored as irrelevant. Maria's team reached the outer perimeter without detection. They wore suits cobbled together from Valerian waste, materials modified to bend light around them in ways the aliens never imagined possible. Each fighter carried weapons that looked like junk to Valerian eyes, but had been transformed by human ingenuity into deadly tools. Ben Sullivan crouched nearby, his fingers dancing over a hybrid interface he had built himself. At 42, the former communications specialist had found his calling in the resistance. He had discovered how to hack into Valerian networks by exploiting weaknesses in systems the aliens considered too primitive to be a threat. "I'm in their security grid," he whispered to Maria. "Redirecting their sensors now." Inside the command center, Valerian officers noticed minor glitches in their systems, but dismissed them as routine fluctuations. Their technology was so advanced, Compared to human capabilities that they never considered the possibility of infiltration, Maria gave the signal, and her team moved swiftly through the facility. Their weapons disabled Valerian guards with targeted electromagnetic pulses that overwhelmed the aliens' neural systems without setting off alarms. Ben accessed the central communication hub, planting devices Olivia had designed to gather information and disrupt Valerian coordination. "Data extraction beginning," he reported. "We have 5 minutes before their automated systems notice." Across the globe, similar operations unfolded with precision. In what was once London, resistance fighters disabled a Valerian power station. In Beijing, they infiltrated a processing facility. In Rio de Janeiro, they seized control of a transport hub. The Valerians were caught completely off guard. Their defense systems were designed to stop threats they understood, not hybrid human-Valerian technology, operating on principles they had never considered. Their weapons failed to target the stealth-suited humans. Their communications broke down as Ben's viruses spread through their networks. Commander Vexnar stared in disbelief at the reports flooding in from around the world. "This is impossible," he growled. "How can primitives affect our technology this way?" "Sir," a panicked officer called out, "unknown craft approaching from multiple directions." Outside, Nicole Baker led a squadron of hybrid vessels toward the command center. Each craft had been built from salvaged Valerian components, modified to respond to human neural patterns. They moved in ways that confused alien targeting systems, following flight paths no Valerian would ever attempt. "All pilots execute attack pattern Delta," Nicole ordered calmly. "Remember your training. Their weapons can't lock onto our signatures if we maintain irregular movement." The Valerian defense ships scrambled to respond, but their pilots followed, standard protocols that were useless against the human tactics. Nicole's squadron struck with precision, disabling the aliens' main communication array and power systems. Inside the command center, Maria's team reached the central database. "Download complete," Ben announced. "We have their deployment plans, defense codes, and ship locations." "Time to disappear," Maria ordered. "Phase 2 begins now." As the resistance fighters retreated, Ben activated the final part of their plan. The hybrid devices they had planted throughout the facility began broadcasting on frequencies that disrupted Valerian neural functions. The aliens found themselves unable to coordinate a response as humans slipped away with their most sensitive data. Linda Crawford watched the operation unfold from a secure location. The 35-year-old diplomat had once represented Earth in discussions with the Valerians. Now she used her knowledge of alien psychology to predict their responses and exploit their weaknesses. "They'll call for reinforcements," she told Paul Martinez over a secure channel. "But more importantly, they'll be confused. The Valerians can't process the idea that we could use their own technology against them." Paul nodded. "That confusion gives us time. How soon can you contact the Aryans?" The Aryans were another species who had suffered under Valerian dominance. Linda had spent months establishing secret communication with their representatives. "I've sent the signal. If they're monitoring as promised, they'll see what we've accomplished today." Commander Vexnar ordered an immediate counterattack, but his forces found only empty buildings where resistance bases had been reported. The humans had already relocated, using their knowledge of Earth's geography to stay one step ahead of alien pursuers. In orbit, Valerian ships detected unusual energy signatures but couldn't identify their source. The hybrid technology created by Olivia and Dr. Warren operated outside the parameters the aliens monitored. "The humans are using some kind of primitive jamming devices," a Valerian officer reported dismissively. "Increase power to our sensors, and we'll find them." But increasing power only made their systems more vulnerable to the subtle interference patterns humans had designed. More Valerian systems crashed or reported false data, as the resistance exploited weaknesses the aliens had never thought to protect against. Back at the new resistance headquarters, relocated to an underground facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, Maria's team celebrated their success. The Chicago operation had liberated thousands of human workers and captured critical Valerian technology intact. "They never expected us to understand their systems well enough to do this," Olivia said, as she examined the newly acquired alien devices. These aren't damaged or outdated. These are their current military-grade tools. Dr. Warren nodded in agreement. Now we can see exactly how their latest technology works. This will accelerate our development by months. Harold Cooper updated the Global Resistance Map, showing newly liberated territories across North America and Europe. We've taken back major population centers in 12 countries. The Valerians are retreating to their primary bases. Minimal on our side, Maria reported. The stealth technology worked better than we hoped, and the neural disruptors incapacitated the Valerians without killing them. Linda Crawford entered with important news. The Aryans have responded. They're impressed by what we've accomplished and are ready to open formal discussions about an alliance. This was a crucial development. The Aryans had advanced technology of their own, but had been subjugated by the Valerians centuries ago. They had the knowledge to help humans understand the aliens' weaknesses even better. In his command ship, Vexenar sent an urgent message to the Valerian homeworld. The human resistance is using technology that should be beyond their understanding. Request immediate reinforcements and advanced containment units. The response came swiftly. A fleet would arrive within 6 months. Until then, Vexenar was ordered to re-establish control using any means necessary. The commander gathered his remaining forces. These primitives have gotten lucky by scavenging our discarded equipment, he told his officers. But they cannot stand against our full military might. Prepare for total pacification protocols. What Vexenar failed to understand was that humans weren't just using Valerian trash as they found it. They were transforming it, combining it with Earth technology and their own unique neural patterns to create something entirely new. Something the Valerians couldn't predict or counter, because it followed no development path they recognized. As the aliens prepared for a devastating counterattack, the Resistance continued to evolve their hybrid technology. Nicole trained more pilots. Ben developed more sophisticated hacking tools. Olivia and Dr. Warren pushed the boundaries of what was possible by combining human creativity with Valerian technical foundations. They still think we just got lucky, Paul told the Resistance leaders. They can't accept that we might actually understand their technology better than they do in some ways. Maria looked at the map showing newly liberated territories. That's good. Let them underestimate us until it's too late. 6 months passed as the war for Earth intensified. The Valerians struck back with overwhelming force, but humans proved surprisingly difficult to defeat. Each time the aliens thought they had crushed the Resistance, it would reappear somewhere, unexpected. The hybrid technology humans created evolved rapidly, always staying one step ahead of Valerian countermeasures. In the underground command center beneath the Rocky Mountains, Frank Donovan stood before a holographic map showing the current state of the conflict. Most of North America had been liberated, along with large portions of Europe and Asia. The Valerians maintained control of strategic areas where they had established their strongest bases. The reinforcements will arrive within days, Frank told the assembled Resistance leaders. Our orbital sensors detected their fleet entering the solar system. Paul Martinez studied the defensive plans. Are we ready for this? They're sending their most advanced military forces. Olivia Nelson nodded confidently. We've prepared for this moment. The defensive perimeter is in place, and our new countermeasures are ready for deployment. Dr. Elijah Warren had spent months working with Aryan scientists to develop new applications for the hybrid technology. The alliance with the Aryans had provided crucial insights into Valerian weaknesses. Their ambassador, Tlavek, now stood among the human leaders. My people have fought the Valerians for generations, Tlavek said in a melodic voice. But we never thought to use their own technology against them as you have done. Valerian arrogance creates blind spots in their thinking. The Resistance had established a defensive perimeter in Earth orbit. Hundreds of small craft built from modified Valerian components patrolled space waiting for the enemy fleet to arrive. Nicole Baker commanded this makeshift armada from a hybrid command ship. All squadrons report ready, she announced over the communications network. Defense platforms are online and calibrated. On the ground, Maria Duncan led the final preparations for the land battle. If the orbital defenses failed, her forces would be the last line of protection for the remaining free human territories. The Valerians will expect us to be afraid, she told her troops. They think superior firepower always wins. We need to show them that human creativity is more powerful than their technology. Ben Sullivan monitored the communications network he had built from salvaged Valerian parts. We're intercepting their advanced transmissions. They're confident. This will be a simple operation. Commander Vexnar has promised his superiors that Earth will be pacified within days. Linda Crawford had just returned from meeting with representatives of other species who had been monitoring the conflict. The galaxy is watching what happens here. No one has ever successfully resisted Valerian expansion before. If we win, other, occupied worlds may rise up as well. In his flagship approaching Earth, Commander Vexnar reviewed the battle plans. The human resistance has been fortunate so far, exploiting weaknesses in our older equipment. But they cannot stand against our current military technology. His officers nodded in agreement. The reinforcement fleet carried weapons far more advanced than anything previously deployed on Earth. In Valerian thinking, technological superiority guaranteed victory. The idea that humans might have developed effective countermeasures seemed impossible. The final battle began as the Valerian fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel near Earth's moon. They immediately deployed in attack formation, expecting minimal resistance from the primitive human defenses. Instead, they encountered a swarm of hybrid vessels that moved in unpredictable patterns. Nicole's pilots used neural interfaces that allowed them to maneuver with a speed and precision that confused Valerian targeting systems. They're using modified versions of our discarded craft, a Valerian officer reported with disbelief. But they've been altered to perform beyond their original specifications. Commander Vexnar ordered his most powerful weapons activated. Energy beams lanced out toward the human defenders. But many missed their targets as Nicole's pilots executed evasive maneuvers no Valerian would ever attempt. The human vessels counterattacked using weapons Olivia and Dr. Warren had developed, specifically for this moment. They didn't try to match Valerian firepower directly. Instead, they targeted specific vulnerabilities in alien systems, causing cascading failures throughout the enemy fleet. They're disrupting our coordination networks, a Valerian officer shouted as control screens flickered and died. Somehow, they're using our own communication frequencies against us. Ben Sullivan directed this aspect of the battle from his command post. His team had spent months studying how Valerian systems communicated with each other. Rather than trying to overpower these networks, they injected subtle interference patterns that caused the aliens' own technology to malfunction. As the space battle raged, Dr. Alan Carter and Olivia activated their masterpiece, a system that turned the Valerians' own technology against them. This device was the culmination of everything they had learned about alien technology over the past 2 years. Initiating now, Alan said, as he activated the final sequence. Across the Valerian fleet, systems began to fail in ways the aliens had never anticipated. Their energy weapons powered down mid-charge. Navigation controls responded sluggishly or not at all. Communications between ships became garbled and unintelligible. "What is happening?" Commander Vexnar demanded, as his flagship's systems flickered around him. "Unknown, sir," replied a panicked officer. "Our diagnostic programs can't identify the problem." The humans pressed their advantage. Nicole's squadrons targeted key Valerian vessels, disabling their propulsion and weapon systems. The resistance wasn't trying to destroy the alien fleet, but to render it harmless. On the ground, Frank Donovan prepared to open communication channels. "Once their fleet is neutralized, we'll offer terms. This ends today, one way or another." Commander Vexnar watched in disbelief as his mighty fleet was systematically disabled by forces he had dismissed as primitive. For the first time, he faced the possibility that he had catastrophically underestimated human capabilities. "Fall back to defensive positions," he ordered. "Regroup and prepare for a coordinated counterattack." But his commands couldn't be properly transmitted through the failing communication systems. The Valerian fleet fell into disarray as individual captains made their own decisions without central coordination. In the Resistance Command Center, Olivia monitored the effectiveness of their hybrid technology. It's working even better than we expected. Their systems are completely vulnerable to our interference patterns. Dr. Warren nodded in satisfaction. They built their technology to be perfectly logical and efficient according to Valerian thinking. They never imagined someone would approach the problem from a completely different direction. The battle turned decisively in humanity's favor. Within hours, most of the Valerian fleet had been neutralized without being destroyed. Commander Vexnar's flagship was surrounded by human vessels, its weapons and engines disabled. Frank Donovan opened a communication channel to the Valerian commander. "This is Secretary General Donovan of Earth. Your fleet has been neutralized. We are prepared to discuss your surrender." Vexnar's image appeared on the screen. His alien features twisted with disbelief. "How is this possible? You are primitives. You cannot defeat our technology." "We didn't defeat your technology," Frank replied calmly. "We transformed it into something new, something you never imagined possible. The terms of surrender were simple. The Valerians would withdraw from Earth and recognize human independence. They would cease treating humanity as a primitive species to be exploited and acknowledge them as equals. Ambassador Krezoth was summoned from the Valerian homeworld to formalize the agreement. He arrived to find Earth transformed from an occupied planet to a free world with its own fleet built from repurposed Valerian technology. The final meeting took place in the United Nations building in New York. The Valerian ambassador faced Frank Donovan across the negotiating table. Also present were Paul, Olivia, Alan, and the other resistance leaders who had made victory possible. "How did you do it?" Krezoth finally asked. "How did primitives like you defeat the greatest fleet in the galaxy?" Olivia stepped forward. "You gave us trash thinking we couldn't possibly understand it. But you failed to consider that we might see possibilities you missed. Human creativity found new ways to use your discarded technology. We forged it into something you couldn't understand or stop." The ambassador studied the humans with new respect. "No species has ever done this before. You took a completely different developmental path than any we've encountered." "Because you forced us to," Alan replied. "If you had treated us as equals, shared your knowledge openly, none of this would have happened. Your arrogance created your own defeat." As the peace treaty was signed, Linda Crawford presented additional terms. Earth would lead a coalition of species seeking independence from Valerian domination. The Aryans would be the first to join this new alliance. "Your empire is beginning to crumble," Linda told the ambassador. "Other worlds have seen what happened here. They're already following our example, finding new uses for the technology you discarded."